In your bulletin is a take-home work for this week. If you would grab that out, put it in your pocket or your purse. Now we can go deeper this week as we look at effective affluence in our lives and what our scriptures tell us about that. This morning, as you can maybe guess, I have some new things on. The lei was a gift yesterday at the installation service from our association, and so I'm wearing it today. The cross was a gift from the Women's League. It's actually made out of sandalwood, and it's a pineapple cross. And I was told this morning it was the very last one of this size ever made, so even more of an honor to be wearing it. And the lei was symbolic of the gazillions of leis that I got yesterday and the gifting that you have given to me. Last night was a remarkable night for me, and I hope for our church as well as we begin this new era. Sitting with me is Brent Huckabee, one of my best friends. We met in seminary, and he got to share a part of the story last night of our meeting. He didn't share my side of the story. So, I don't believe in vengeance, but this is going to be fun. So we were in this class together, and he was sitting in front of me, and I noticed that he had on his screen a picture of his beautiful wife and son. And so I struck up this conversation, and through the week we continued to talk, and I had to present in front of the whole entire class my matrix of theology, why I believe what I believe, and how it traces back all the way to Jesus through theologians. At the end of my presentation, that was by far the best presentation of the week. Amen? Amen. He proceeds to raise his hand with the first question, and he says, "May I be the first to ask him, does he like being a heretic?" To which the class, and in the church world, heretics typically were tarred, feathered, and killed. And I kind of felt that way in this class already. And I bursted out laughing, and immediately I thought, this is the guy that I'm going to be best friends with forevermore, because he called me out on the carpet. And from that day forward, we have shared life together, the joys of having more children. We vacationed in the summer together as families, and it was an honor to have him last night preach a sermon that really moved me as an individual, reminding why I am here to begin with, and the call of us as a people. So thank you for being here and helping make this a profoundly purposeful and momentous occasion in my life. So I invite you to pray with me as we begin our sermon together. Oh, Spirit of God, you are moving among us. We sense it, we know it. And what we know is that your movement in us creates questions. It invites us to look at our lives and take stock of who we are and that which we believe. And it's a gift. And our prayer this morning is that you would move in us once more by granting us ears that may hear your whisper, granting us hearts that are willing to follow after you, and giving us the courage to actually be Christians, followers of the way of Jesus Christ. And so move among us now is our prayer. Amen. It's amazing it's already February, and for the last 4 Sundays, we have been looking at the book of Ecclesiastes to try to understand how to unleash a rewarding life. Many believe that Solomon wrote this book, and the book is looking at the very tangibleness of our daily living. And so for the first 4 weeks, we've explored 4 different parts of life. First being our seasons of life, that all of us go through different seasons, and one season isn't better than another. It's just part of being human. Then we looked at the proper use of power in relationships and in our world, and the way that he has taught us the way of wisdom and power. Then the third week, we talked about how to live with passion and to allow that to come out in our lives and to shape us and the community around us. And last week, we looked at work and that which we call work and finding meaning in the work that we have, in essence, to find God's call to us right where we are right now in life. Today, we turn to perhaps the most favorite topic of all church sermons, money. Amen? And I want to start out by saying I'm not going to ask you to give up all of your money, just most of it. Deal? Deal. But in our reality, what Solomon does is he invites us into a conversation to look at the stuff of our lives and ask, why? Why do we have it? And what good is it anyways? And in this passage, he invokes this idea that maybe sometimes we miss the point of affluence. Affluence. Now, I can hear some of you saying, well, I'm not affluent. Well, in the world in which we live, we are affluent in a variety of ways, sometimes materialistically, sometimes relationally. And today's passage asks us to look at what is in our lives, the stuff of our lives, and ask ourselves deep questions about what is the purpose of it? How do I use it? Do I trust in it too much? Or do I want too much of stuff? Before we do that, though, I'd like to go back to the children's moment, playgrounds. How many of you remember playing on playgrounds as a child? I loved playgrounds. How many of you ever tried to dig to the other side of the earth? I looked it up on Google. If you dug straight down from right where we are, you would end up in Botswana, Africa. Did you know that? That's the other side of the earth from here. Or how many of you like the swing sets? And you would swing up as high as you could, and then you would launch yourself up and fly, even if just for a few moments, and then land again. Or maybe it was that on the playground you realize that if anyone's willing, they're able to be a part of the group. Who wants to play tag? And every hand that goes up, they immediately are part of the game. And in fact, those that didn't raise their hand get tagged anyways. And so they're invited into the game. You see, the playground was this place of imagination, of freedom, of exploring the boundaries of our world and believing that everything was possible and nothing was impossible. But on playgrounds, we got to the place where we started realizing that you couldn't dig through the whole entire earth because there was clay and rock. You realized that you actually weren't flying because they taught you about this thing called gravity that sucks you back to the ground. And that this idea that you fly is silly. That on the playground, you start realizing that some kids have new shoes and other kids have hand-me-downs. That some kids have shirts with symbols on it and logos, and others have nothing on their shirts. And suddenly a pecking order is created of who has and who doesn't. And amazingly, that pecking order sticks with us the rest of our lives, doesn't it? We start looking at the world around us by what people look like and judging them based on the outsides instead of on the insides. We begin realizing that there is a pecking order to our world of those that have power and those that don't. We realize in our world that oftentimes money really does speak louder than it should. And we struggle the rest of our lives with this notion of what happened to fairness and justice. What happened to all of us being in the same playground, playing on the same stuff, being equals with each other? In essence, what happens is that we get engulfed in meism. That we believe everything is about me. And what do I get out of it? And even sometimes the way that we serve is just an extension of meism, that I serve you because it makes me feel good about me, not because it's a gift to you, regardless of how I feel about it. And so our faith invites us into a totally different way of seeing reality in the world around us. And I'm always curious, why do people follow the way of Jesus Christ? For some, they would say it's so I can go to heaven after I die. Well, I need a reason now why I'm living. Why do you follow the way of Jesus Christ? The way that asks you to give up so much. To give up vengeance and the need to be right, and instead offer forgiveness and grace. The way that invites us to look at the stuff in our pockets and realize that it's all a gift to us from God on loan, and that we have the freedom to use it to be a blessing to others. The way that invites us to look at the world through the eyes of love, even loving our enemies as ourselves. Why do we follow this way? Well, for me, it's because the other way that I tried to follow, the meistic way, was the way that always left me empty and wanting more. It was the way that always made everything about me and only me, at the expense of others. It was the way that I never found a rewarding life until I gave up my life and then found it again in Jesus Christ. And so I had to look at the stuff of my life, the money, the goods, that which we have. And I had to start looking at it with a new eye. This passage is full of wisdom, and I want to point out two passages in particular and then jump into what these mean. Verse 10 says this: "The money lover is never satisfied with money. Neither is the lover of wealth satisfied with income." Listen to that again. The money lover isn't satisfied with money. Neither is the lover of wealth satisfied with income. What he's saying is that you will never have enough. You always need more, thinking that the next tier, then I will have enough. And you get there, and it's still not enough. Many months ago, I shared a story that shocked me, but is so true about this passage. A gentleman that had started a huge company in our culture sold it for $500 million. And when interviewed about his sale of his business for $500 million, the person said, "Do you now have enough?" And he smiled and said, "No." And the interviewer said, "How much will be enough?" He said, "When I stand on the moon and look down at the earth and say, 'It's all mine,' then it will be enough." You see, those that love money will never have money enough, because there'll always be someone that has something more than you do. And so affluence is in relationship to those that have more than you than what you have right now. And so you can always say, "I'm not affluent, look at those folks," instead of saying, "Look at where I am today, and I have everything I ever needed." Maybe not what I wanted, but what I needed. The second verse from this passage, verse 13, says this: "I have seen a sickening tragedy under the sun. People hoard their wealth to their own detriment." People hoard their wealth to their own detriment. Now realize that Solomon, at the time of his kingship, was the wealthiest man in the world. He was a king. He owned more than anyone else had ever known before him. And he pursued that to get more and more and more and more. And what he realized was that the more he got, the less he was fulfilled. He never found a reward in his stuff. And he started looking around him and realizing that he wasn't the only one like that. Is that people hoard stuff and it ends up hurting them in the end, because they trust in the stuff more than they trust in their God. Now, I don't know all of you personally, and I wouldn't make a judgment upon you, but I am one who was born and raised in the United States of America, a land that I love, perhaps the wealthiest nation that the world has ever seen or known. And what I'm always amazed with is that we never have enough, do we? We have grocery stores overflowing with food, and we keep building bigger and bigger grocery stores to house the 500 different types of ketchup, because we can never have enough. That we as a people keep building bigger and bigger homes, and bigger this, cars, and you name it. And we never seem to have enough. This week I was contemplating this in my own life and in the life of the culture that I live. In a time in society that many claim to be the materially richest society in the history of all civilization, what I often find is that we are bankrupt in happiness, purpose, and a sense of meaning. Just because you have affluence does not make you happy. It does not give you meaning, and certainly does not fulfill your purpose in life. And so Solomon invites us into this world that looks at things differently. What if that which we have is a gift from God, and that we are given the opportunity to use it however we see fit, so that we can bless the world around us. What if we look at our lives, instead of comparing to someone else, just look at us and say, God, what is it that I need in my life? And make a small list of needs, and then make the big list of wants. And realize that most of us, are affluent if we use that as the yardstick. In the first century, as the church was getting going, and they were struggling with how do we be a people of God? And what difference does it make in the world as they're underneath of the oppression of the Roman government and persecution is happening widely? Amazingly, they kept trying to kill the church, but it kept growing. A writer wrote this: Many who seem to be struggling with adversity are happy. Many amid great affluence are utterly miserable. Those that struggle are happy. Those that struggle with affluence oftentimes are miserable. It's this backup world that we live in. Upside down. Doesn't make sense. That one would think that we would be the happiest society that has ever lived, yes? Because we have the most stuff. And when you look at the list of world countries and the happiest places on earth, we're way down on the list of happy. Perhaps it's time for us to return to a better way. The way of Jesus Christ. The way that invites us to be a people that are markedly different than the world around us. That oftentimes it comes through us. And so we go back to the playground. What did we learn on the playground as kids? The three primary lessons that I learned on the playground. It helps guide perhaps the way I look at my stuff in life. Number one, everyone gets to play on the playground. There isn't winners or losers. There isn't worthy and unworthy. We all are just in this thing together, trying to do life and make the most of it. Perhaps we should practice that together. Number two, you must share. It's not just your playground. I remember one time I had one of my kids on a swing set, and there were kids waiting in line for the swing set, and he'd been on it for a long, long time. I said to him, hey, it's time to get off the swing. And he went, no, it's my swing. And I said, no, it's not your swing, it's everyone's swing. And you get a turn on that swing. You see, sometimes we forget that all of our stuff isn't just mine, it's for us to share. Because when we share, we're more powerful together than we ever are apart. That's the power of places like this, that when we put our little bit into the kitty together, we get a bunch, and then that bunch can really impact the world around us far more than just my little bit in my pocket. You see, we were created for each other, to work together and do life together. And perhaps if we realize it's not just mine, but ours to share, then maybe that will help us. And the third, that he's been reminding us every week, is enjoy what you got. Enjoy where you are. Eat, drink, and be merry, for this is your lot in life. Enjoy it. Quit looking at the greener grass on the other side of everything. Enjoy right where you are right now, because it will never return. Ever. I'm in the throes of raising children, 3 of them. And I'm told by many of you it's the best time of life. I would add with a comma, and the most exhausting time of life. But it is so fleeting, isn't it? The kids grow so fast. And if I don't enjoy this moment, it'll be gone before I know it. If I don't enjoy right where I am and the gifts that God has blessed me with, then I'm not going to learn the lessons of now for the future. And so the little bit that I have now, I share. The little bit that you have right now, you share. And we help bring the goodness and the wonder of God among us in this world today on earth as it is in heaven. And so what do we do with our stuff? Well, we realize that money will never satisfy. No amount of wealth will make you feel full. but instead we find all of our meaning and purpose in God alone, and then view all of our stuff through those eyes. May it be so today and all the days ahead. Amen.